Well, good evening. Hope everybody had a nice day, nice weekend. But so I thought we'd just go over a few things first. Relative to the minutes, they look okay. Any amendments, any issue with the minutes?
No.
Okay, great. On old business, Bill 2119, the lacrosse practice field for CBC. Alderman Holman and Hughes, is this teed up and ready to go, I would assume? No, no. Hughes, you good with it? Is she muted or she has something to this up? Okay. Well, I will assume that one is ready to go. And under new business, bill number 2120, the accessory structure on Brookwood Road, that's in Ward 2. Either the Ward 2 alderman okay with sponsoring that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. And Bill 2121, allowing HR Green for consultant services to look at the stormwater program. That's sort of citywide. Could maybe the board as a whole sponsor that?
Sure, that's fine.
Good idea.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
I do have one question related to that, Mayor.
Sure, fire away.
There's a,
That's Alderman Perot for the record.
sorry,
Go ahead.
yes. On the cover letter, it spells out the word 11 and then it has 19 in parentheses after it in terms of remaining projects. So I'm curious which is the real number.
I'll ask the city manager. I think it's actually 11, but I may be wrong. Go ahead, Bob.
We had a 50% chance it's actually 19.
Okay, all right.
It'll be corrected for the meeting, your second reading.
You know, I read through that
Thank you.
whole report and I think the total number is 90. I would have, before this position, I would have never realized there was that many issues with stormwater runoff and trying to take care of 90 of those issues. That's going to be a full-time job in perpetuity. That's a lot of projects.
Yep.
And the approval of the solid waste license for Gateway Disposal. Any questions? Are we ready to proceed on that?
That's fine.
Okay. And then Alderman Allen on resolution about a task force to honor veterans and first responders. The only thought I would like, I think relative to task force going forward, I think it's important that they have a sort of definitive timeline. Like, what do we need in terms of timeline to kind of come up with with a plan? Is that 3 months, 4 months, something like that? So when we get into the resolution, and if you want to talk about it a little bit, I'd like to maybe just focus a little bit about, if we could be a little bit focused on the timeline, just to make sure we wrap it up in a reasonable amount of time.
So you would like us to write the timeline in?
Not necessarily. This is more informal, but to say, hey, I don't want to be sitting here 2 years from now, we're still task forcing along. You know what I'm saying? I just think to talk a little bit about it. It doesn't have to be formally in the resolution, but I just want to say, you could sort of say, hey, I think in 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 at the most, or something like that, we should have a definitive plan on what it should look like, what it would cost, how we proceed, just so that there's something, so it's not just kind of hanging loose out there. Is just the thought I had on it.
Yes, I would like something that we could point to and identify by September the 11th or November the 11th. November the 11th is, I believe, Veterans Day.
Right.
Would that be sufficient? I mean, that, to me, that
Yeah,
would
I mean,
be-
I could certainly live with that. I just wanted some, frame of reference to say, hey, this looks like a reasonable amount of time that we'll need on this task force to come to a conclusion.
Okay, and a question, I have talked to a couple people.
Sure.
One of those resolutions, is this good to have a first vote only, or I'm sorry, a first read, or a first read and then 2 weeks later, a second read? There's nothing contractual with this. So my thought was to get the sense of the board as to, is this something people could move forward with? And I mean, the moving forward would be then to be able to identify the task force and start work on it. So I didn't know what the sense of certainly you, Mayor, and the board would be for tonight.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not, I would say that I would say I would probably want to make sure from a procedural standpoint, I do it correctly. So I'm going to actually ask this city clerk, Ms. McNamara, her thoughts on that. If you could chime in on that.
Absolutely. So you would be absolutely doing it correctly if you guys did vote tonight. There's no procedural reason to hold it off unless you really just want to continue it. For this item in particular, you're going to take it up at least the next 2 meetings anyway, whenever you start talking about the appointees. So there's probably no harm in moving today so that you guys can get that going, especially if you're going to try to focus the timeline and get moving on it. So I would say if the board has no problem moving forward, it makes sense to do that.
I think that'd be a reasonable approach. I would
Mr.
just.
Mayor,
Yes,
if I could.
go ahead, Alderman.
Yeah, I guess historically, we have allowed 2 meetings for these kinds of things. And I guess I like that idea to allow the public to comment on things before we make a resolution to pass something. And then secondly, there's nothing that says that we can't start recruiting task force members before we have a task force. So we could multi-thread this thing and move forward.
I'm certainly happy to, if there's a certain protocol that we use and it's two meetings and gives the public time to weigh in. I certainly have no issues with that. That'd be fine as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
You okay with that, Sue? Or Alderman Allen?
sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, if nobody else has anything else, I would like to just sort of discuss for a minute if we can, we got to get a firm date for our retreat, and we're having a little bit of issue with that. And my understanding is that for June, correct me if I'm wrong, but on June 5th and 12th, each of those 2 dates, we have 2 aldermen who cannot make those 2 days. They're different aldermen for each of those dates, but all in all, there's 2 each time. So the question would be, would the June 19th work? Secondly, if that didn't work, I mean, I'm not opposed, and being semi-retired, I have a little more flexibility than other people, so I don't want to assume anything, but I wouldn't be opposed if we picked a weekday in the morning or afternoon for 3 hours or however long that is, that if that would work better so we don't have to continue to put this off. So, but I guess I would start, and I'll have city clerk maybe send out an email to everyone to say, hey, does June 19th work, that Saturday? If that works, I know that's Father's Day weekend, but I still think we could do that on Saturday morning. And if that doesn't work, was there anybody who has a lot of heartburn if we decided to look for a weekday in June? I don't really want it to go real late in the evening, but I don't know, either 9 to 12 in the morning or 1 to 4 in the afternoon. Let me know your thoughts on that. Anybody wants to chime in now? I just don't want this to, because I think we have a couple important things to talk about, and I don't want it to just keep getting pushed off.
I can start. I can start if you want to hear feedback right now or in an email to Ashley.
Why don't you if you have your calendars with you now and chime in right now.
I will be in a car on June 19th, traveling back from Florida. So I can't make the meeting, and you don't want me to make the meeting because there'll be kids in the background and whatnot. But with regard to the weekday, I am fine with that. I would just defer to Alderman Mortland to lead that conversation. But I'm open the rest of June. But I'm not the 12th to the 19th. I'm out.
Okay. Alderman Moreland, tell me your thoughts, please.
You're on mute, Ryan.
So as long as it's scheduled out, I can, a couple of weeks out, I can do the morning or the afternoon. That'll work. That'll actually probably be easier during the week.
Okay. Do any of the other aldermen have any heartburn if we pick a weekday?
I'm fine with the weekday, either
Okay.
morning or afternoon. It's just something that as long as we schedule it far enough in advance, I can block that on my calendar.
Okay, great.
I'm the same.
Okay,
I'm good anytime.
okay. Well, I will have Ms. McNamara send out a couple of dates soon that are sometime after the 19th during the week, maybe that Tuesday or Wednesday of that week. And we'll get it set up then. We'll get it going because I think it's important.
Agreed.
All right, if there's no other discussion, I mean, it's almost 7 as is, but why don't we adjourn and we'll restart about,
One other
excuse
thing,
me.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Alderman, McNamara, go right ahead.
So at some point, I'm not asking for anybody to say anything tonight, but when we're going to get back together and meet face to face. I love the convenience of Zoom. It saves a lot of commuting time, but.
No, I think right now our goal is, takes a little, starting in July, our Board of Aldermen meetings are going to be in person.
Okay.
Yes. Good question.
Well, that makes it easy then.
Yeah. And I absolutely, I'm very anxious to get that going. All right, see you in a couple